Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about Independent Payments Regulatory Board. Let us first understand what is the current affair. The Reserve Bank of India, the RBI, is the monetary authority in the country and it has opposed the government proposal to set up an independent and separate regulator for the payments industry in the country. So, the Union government has recommended that there is a need for a separate authority that will regulate the payments industry in the country, but RBI did not agree to the government view. RBI said that the payments industry will come under the purview of the RBI. There is no need for an independent regulator for the payments industry. So, we will analyze this current affair in this lecture. Now, let us look into what are the proposals of the Union government. So, the proposals of the Union government came from the Interministerial Committee which was set up by the Department of Economic Affairs. So, earlier the Department of Economic Affairs had set up an Interministerial Committee and the purpose of the committee was to finalize the amendments to the Payments and Settlement Systems Act of 2007. So, this Interministerial Committee had gone through the Payments and Settlement Systems Act and they found out that this act was established in 2007 and now it has been 11 years and the payments industry has rapidly changed over this 11 years and there is a need to amend this Payments and Settlement Systems Act of 2007. So, various proposals were made up by the Interministerial Committee to the government. We will see what are the recommendations of this Interministerial Committee in order to make an amendment to the Payments and Settlement Systems Act of 2007. So, these proposals are very important. The first proposal is that the establishment of an Independent Payments Regulatory Board, that is IPRB. There should be a Payments Regulatory Board and it should be separate from the existing regulation. The existing regulation is RBI. So, it should not come under the purview of RBI. It should be independent from the existing regulator, that is RBI, and it should also be a separate body. And the aim of this PRB or the Payments Regulatory Board will be to foster competition and consumer protection, systemic stability and resilience in the payment sector. So, the payments industry is growing rapidly and we are observing a rapid growth in the payments industry, and in order to foster or enhance competition in the industry, various regulations and guidelines are required. So, this must be provided by the PRB or the Payments Regulatory Board, and also the customers or consumers should be protected under the payments industry. So, these two would be the primary functions of the Payments Regulatory Board, and this proposal was made by the Interministerial Committee and this was the most important proposal of the committee. And we will later see that RBI had rejected this proposals. RBI is opposing this proposals. We will see what is the argument of the RBI etc. later in this lecture. Now, coming to the second recommendation. The second recommendation by this committee was to have a government appointed chairman for the PRB. That means the Payments Regulatory Board must be separate and independent from the RBI, and this board must be chaired by a person who would be recommended by the central government. So, here the role of the RBI is being restricted. So, RBI will have lesser role in decision making of payments bank. So, when chairman is appointed by the government, more authority for controlling the payments industry is given to the government. Chairman is the most important position of the board and it will be nominated or recommended by the government. That was the second proposal. Now, the third proposal was that there should be a Securities Appellate Tribunal or SAT, and the SAT should look into the dispute cases related to the payments industry. So, if there is any dispute in the payments industry, any grievance or redressal, it must be looked into by SAT or the Securities Appellate Tribunal. So, these were the important recommendations provided by the Interministerial Committee, and we have seen recently in the newspapers that RBI has rejected all these proposals. The Reserve Bank of India has opposed the government in the implementation of all these recommendations. Now, we will briefly have an idea about the Payments Council of India. The Payment Council of India is important here because the PCI or the Payments Council of India has also agreed with the recommendations of Interministerial Committee. That means the PCI is also in an opinion that there should be an independent and separate regulator for the payments industry in the country. So we will quickly look what is PCI and what is the role of PCI. The PCI or the Payments Council of India was formed under the aegis of IAMAI. IAMAI is Internet and Mobile Association of India. And this was formed in the year 2013. And the purpose of the Payments Council of India was to promote digital payment industry's growth. So in order to enhance the growth of the digital payments industry, PCI was established. And the focus of PCI was for two things. One is cash to less cash economy. And the second one is growth of financial inclusion. So these were the two important focus of the PCI. Now the Interministerial Committee has given certain recommendations and the PCI has responded to it. PCI said that the payment sector has undergone various changes in the last 7 to 8 years and these changes are rapid, and because of these changes there are various types of risk involved in the payment sector. So a risk-based regulation is required in the payment industry, and therefore the payment industry should have an independent and separate regulator other than the RBI. So this was the proposal made by the PCI. Now let us understand what was the Reserve Bank of India's argument in this regard. So the RBI has rejected all this above recommendations. We have read it from the newspapers. RBI did not agree to the recommendations of the Interministerial Committee. So what is the argument of RBI? RBI argues that the payment systems are a subset of currency which is regulated by RBI. So currency is regulated by the RBI and payments system comes under the currency. Therefore, it is within the direct purview of the RBI to regulate the payment systems. And secondly, the RBI also argued that there is an impact of monetary policy on the payment and settlement system. So what is monetary policy? The policy made by the Reserve Bank of India. So the policies will be either expansionary or contractionary. That means it affects the money supply in the economy. So when RBI makes a monetary policy, it has an impact in the money supply. So money supply and payments industry are directly linked. So RBI argued that the impact of a monetary policy will have a direct impact on the payment and settlement system, and vice versa. Any changes in the payment or settlement system will have an impact on the money supply or the monetary policy as well. So there is a two-way relationship between the payment system as well as the monetary policy. So who is the authority to make monetary policies? It is the RBI. So the monetary authority of the country is RBI, and therefore the payment system remain with the monetary authority, that is RBI. So this was the first and the most valid argument made by the RBI. Now the second important argument, if we consider the activities of the payment banks, they are well within the purview of traditional banking system. So there is no need for having a separate regulator for the payment system outside the RBI. RBI controls the traditional banking system, and the activities of the payments bank are also similar to the traditional banking system. Therefore, RBI can regulate the payment system as well. Thirdly, the RBI held that the Payments Regulatory Board, which was recommended by the Interministerial Committee, this board can function under the purview of the RBI governor. What was the recommendation of the committee? The committee recommended that the chairperson of the board must be appointed by the central government. But RBI argued that this board can be established, but this board can function under the control of the RBI governor, and RBI had given a framework for this. RBI recommended that 3 members of this board can be recommended by the government and 3 members can be nominated by the RBI, and there will be a casting vote for the RBI governor in case of a tie. That means from this it is clear that RBI is given an upper hand in the board. So this was the recommendation of the RBI. If we look at the Monetary Policy Committee, we will see a similar framework. In MPC also there are nominations from government as well as from the RBI. But in case of a tie, the governor will establish a casting vote. So in the case of Payments Regulatory Board also, RBI recommended the same. The authority should be the RBI governor. 3 members can be nominated by the government and 3 by the RBI and RBI governor will have a casting vote. From this it is clear that RBI wants to maintain the authority over the payment system. Now another recommendation of the RBI was that the Securities Appellate Tribunal need not be adopted. So the committee recommended that there should be a Securities Appellate Tribunal in order to deal with the redressals or grievances or any settlement. But RBI said that there is no need for a Securities Appellate Tribunal. So from all these arguments of the Reserve Bank of India, it is clear that RBI does not want to dilute its powers. It wants to continue as the monetary authority of the country. So dilution of powers cannot be accepted by the RBI. There are also some other concerns or other arguments by the RBI. One is that a brand new regulator, that is the Payment Regulatory Board. So the Payments Regulatory Board is a new body, and this body may not have the expertise of the Reserve Bank of India in regulating payments industry, which is rapidly growing. But RBI on the other hand, they are experts in managing money. So a new regulator may not have the expertise. So they can function under the RBI and get the expertise from the RBI. So that is one another argument. So from all this, it is clear that RBI is firm on not diluting the current powers of the RBI over the financial sector. Now what has to be done? Now from this it is clear that the RBI and the government have opposite views, and this is not good for an economy like India, who is witnessing instability in the financial system. So what has to be done? The Reserve Bank of India, which is the monetary authority, and the government, which is the fiscal authority, should work together. One reason for this is that for an economy like India, there are increasing risk of stability of domestic financial system. If we observe, the rates of inflation are changing. The currency is going through rapid depreciation. There is outflow of foreign currency from the economy. So all this adds to instability of the domestic financial system. In such an environment, RBI and the government should work together. But if this situation continues, there can be a possible turf war between the RBI and the government, and this must be avoided in a situation where the economy is unstable. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page. You can also get in touch with me on my Facebook page for any queries related to your UPSC preparations. Thank you. I wish you all a very good day.